Hi guys, I'm Louise.
I'm Ania.
And today we are going to talk about, actually, if you don't know, we actually are recording this in the state that we are going to talk about their wine. So we both are in Pennsylvania. And today, yeah.
Don't tell anyone.
Don't tell anybody. Don't hold it against us, okay? We're actually Jersey girls that are in Pennsylvania currently, and we're going to talk about Pennsylvania wines, okay? So, in the area that we live in, there are a number of wineries and more that pop up like nonstop. Constantly.
We have two different wine trails happening, so we've, of course, have taken upon ourselves, and I think we've pretty much been to every single one.
Yes. For research.
For research.
For research.
And one thing we can say is that Pennsylvania wine definitely produces much different, very unique wines. When we go to the vineyard, sometimes when we read the descriptions, we see grapes that we haven't seen before.
Right.
And then it's also, one thing we found, it's inconsistent. So this whole video is going to kind of dive into all of this and give you an idea if you are traveling into our region and tasting wine. This is what you can experience. Look
Try
forward
something
to.
new.
Yes.
So first off, too, Pennsylvania is not new to the wine industry. First off, okay, I mean they have been there have been wineries for over 50 years after Prohibition that have been producing wine in the state. So it's not as if this is new. However, there are a lot of new wineries that don't have vineyards that are up and running, so they do borrow their grape juice from other vineyards.
They borrow.
They borrow.
We'll just take a little bit of this.
But
so what we're talking about are the vineyards that actually
are existing, that have been growing for a number of years or even decades. They've been growing and cultivating their own grapes.
Yes.
Right. So first off, one of the biggest reasons why Pennsylvania is so much different than California wines is particularly, or any other wines, I would say, is the terroir.
Oh, it's so fancy.
So, the terrain of where these grapes are growing, and the type of soil that's here. The one thing about the not only the soil, it's not. I was gonna say, and I hate to say it, it's not as rich.
I was gonna say you're trying to be very selective with your words.
Just
say it, sister.
Okay, so
just
it's not as rich and minerally. Okay, it's not the greatest soil. However,
because especially where I am, it's rock and it's clay,
granite. So we are in the granite state. And so below the soil, there is a lot of granite under there.
Yes.
So the soil isn't as fruitful, I would say.
And it also affects the way it drains. So, the roots of your plant require certain things.
Yes.
And if we're in this tricky kind of position, so obviously right from the beginning, California has much different earth.
Yes.
Earth. The dirt.
The dirt is way different.
Yes.
To start off, but also the climate.
Oh my gosh.
So
we have many challenges here.
Right. So when you go to California, Anya, what do you expect as far as climate? Do you expect
it's very consistent. It's going to be, kind of warm, happy, sunny most of the time.
Yes. But now what about Pennsylvania?
It could be gloomy for many, many, many weeks.
Yes.
And it can be cold.
Yes.
And it can be windy. And then we could have hail, and then it could be like really hot, and then in the same week, you need a jacket.
Right. It's, we can go through all 4 seasons in 1 week, right? So when it comes to grape growing, the wineries here have a much harder time figuring out what to do with those grapes after that season has, when they start harvesting for that season.
I think the biggest challenge that we face here is the rain.
Yes.
So when you look at the year, when you're whatever you're drinking, it's important, because if we had a dry season, it's going to be good stuff. If it's going to be a very wet season, run.
So whenever you see, if you go back and you look at like years where hurricanes have come through, or like we've had an extremely unseasonably dry, it will really affect the taste of the wine, but also the price too.
Absolutely.
So there are better years.
Which explains why when you can see a Pennsylvania wine from, let's say, 2010, which is a really good year, was dry versus 2011. Like you're talking about two different types of experiences, two different types of flavors, and two different prices.
So what happens too is when you have those bad years, the wine just goes flat. Basically, it's just there's not as much flavor. But let's talk about the types of flavors you find in wines in Pennsylvania, because it's a little bit of a different flavor profile too.
Very. So I think what you're going to find is, first of all, it's not going to be a deep wine. It's not the one that you are, especially if you're a Cab California lover and you're looking for that
something
strong
bold
finish
and strong.
These are very light fruit forward. Some of the wines are going to be typically on the sweeter side.
Yes.
So it's meant to be a much different experience and enjoyed differently than the California wines.
And you're going to find too, especially when it comes to the Pennsylvania wines, is that they have a little bit of they do have a higher acidity to them. They're great with pairing for like burgers or pasta, especially the red wines. But some of the tasting profiles you may find out of them is like sour cherry, licorice, even though it's a dried herbs, stuff like that, it's really just a totally different taste
you
profile.
will not, very rare, will you find like mocha.
Yes.
Tobacco.
Or tobacco, yes, I was going to say, or inky, like those really strong or bolder California dusty wines. These are going to be lighter, but they could be higher acidic.
Yes.
And, just, if there are a few that you want to give a shot, I would say try some that Pennsylvania wineries are more known for, like a Chambourcin.
Yes,
right?
That's another thing. We have grapes that you might
specifically grow in this area. You're not going to find a Chambourcin grape outside of this area, or you may, but it may not be as good as in this area.
Yeah. And then I was going to say also with the experience, if you are close to Pennsylvania, do a yearly trip, because it really is a surprise. You don't know what it's going. So it's fun, especially if you like the experience, if you like to do wine tasting and compare from year to year. This is actually a great state to do it in.
Yeah.
Because it's a surprise.
You don't know what you're going to get. It really is. It's like, okay, I know exactly what I'm going to get when I open this bottle of California Cab.
And the best experience, did you try the two at the Unearthing wine, where it was from the last year and this year at Blue Ridge?
I don't think I did.
So we were at a local vineyard.
Yes.
Not with her, apparently.
Apparently I didn't try it.
And they had last year's wine and this year's wine that they just released. The same thing.
No, I didn't try it.
And it was two totally different experiences. The foundation was similar. You knew, okay, this is what I'm drinking, but it was very obvious.
Which is incredible. And that's the one thing about Pennsylvania wines is, sometimes it's like, it's almost like, hey, you know what? Let's try this. Even though I've had it before, let's try this because we don't know what it's going to be like.
Yeah.
A couple of other ones that grow in this area that I've never heard of before, or that I've never tasted before. Chancellor. Have you ever had Chancellor? We may have to do tastings on these. Zweigelt. What? Norwet. I don't even know what that is.
Nope.
And Lemberger.
No,
have you ever had a Lemberger?
I've seen it.
Okay.
I don't know what it tastes like.
No,
I don't even know if I selected it because I might have been scared.
We may have to try those because there are so many that, it may be, we may have to do a video on all those and see what happens.
And I think the main thing for you guys to know, Pennsylvania wine is great for social events because it's meant to be shared and enjoyed with like typical foods that you entertain with, right? Nothing fancy, and you should drink them right away. Don't save them.
And that's perfect. That's actually perfect, and they're going to be priced reasonably. You know, most of them will be priced reasonably. I will say that there are some pretty good wines in this area that, you know, start to get up in the price range of like $40 to $60. But on average, I'm sure you could probably find decent for under 25.
Yes.
No problem at all. Okay, do we have anything else to add about Pennsylvania aside from that we don't know what's going to happen this year?
Come and visit us,
Come visit.
because we are just surprised.
Yeah. Comment below and tell us if you like Pennsylvania wines, if you ever tried any of the ones that we have talked about today.
Yes, and those special grapes, let us know where we can find those, because I think I would love to go try them.
I know, we're going to have to take a little tour around Pennsylvania. So, all right, guys, thanks so much. I'm Louise.
I'm Ania.
And don't forget to subscribe below, and we'll see you later.
Happy sipping.